Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Peacock from Associations Forum, based in Sydney, Australia, and I'm delighted to be involved in this afternoon's panel session where we're going to look at some practical matters to do with association management. I'm delighted to be joined by Asma and Faris, who I'm going to ask to quickly introduce themselves. Asma, would you like to start, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Asma Deeb. I'm a pediatrician by training. I'm the Secretary General for the Arab Society of Pediatric Endocrinology and Diabetes and the Chair of Communication in the European Society of Pediatric Endocrinology. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Faris.
Thank you for having me today. My name is Faris Abouhamad. I've been the chairman of the International Advertising Association, which is a New York-based association that's spread across the world, spanning some 70 countries, totaling maybe the top 10 economies. My volunteer life or a period of time is just 34 years volunteering for the same association, just that one. Of course, had some other experiences in volunteering, so thank you for having us, John. Thank you, everybody, for having us.
Thank you. Sound check at the back of the room, are we okay? Thank you very much. Folks, we're going to ask you to go to your mobile phones and we need you to go and find the Slido app. Thank you very much. If you could go and find the app, then we will explain. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. We are going to be giving you a quiz. We have a few questions and we have some options in the answers. So without further ado, we will go to the Slido app, and if you could look at the questions as we go. And here we are. So we're going to dive straight in, everyone. So question number one, regarding the governance and management of an association. Three choices. Boards establish plans, delegate management to the chief executive, and monitor results. So that's the first option. The second is that members are the main decision makers. The board implement these decisions and micromanage the CEO. Or the third is that CEOs and staff are employed to make all decisions until they retire or are dismissed. So folks, over to you to have a vote, and then we'll have a brief discussion among the panel here. Okay, so are we voting? Not yet. Hopefully that can start. We've got that. Okay, well, I might ask Faris, your comments on any of those, sir.
Yeah, obviously, you have to look at the very dynamic structures. Associations have been moving in a very fast direction. Now association has to move in an entrepreneurial way. And if you want to have action to be taken firm and quick, then you will have to have a board supporting you and chief executive officer or managing director to execute it, make sure that the execution has been done properly, reported back into the board, and check for results and evaluate and move forward.
Thank you very much. Asma, would you like to add to that question?
I don't have much to add, really. I entirely agree with Faris because, I mean, saying members are the main decision makers might be a little bit tricky. Some people might think that's the case. But again, the board is the crucial part of a society. Perhaps I'm talking primarily from my experience as a medical society, but again, I don't think there will be a right answer and a wrong answer here, but it depends on people's views, expectations, and experience.
So let's have a look at the votes now and see what you're having to say. We have 54% people believe that boards should establish the plans, delegate management to the chief executive. Now, the chief executive in this case is very much the paid employee. That's the person who is there to get the job done, and that person is appointed by the board of directors and can be dismissed by the board of directors. 29% of you say the members are the main decision makers and the board implement these decisions and micromanage the CEO. That's gone up to 33 as we watch. And the final question is that CEOs and staff are employed to make all decisions until they retire or are dismissed. Now that's fairly, I think we'd call that courageous, the third option there as well. Does anyone, if you have, by the way, folks, a question or a comment, put up your hand and we will allow you to make a comment, and we would welcome a comment or a question from you if you do it in 22 seconds when we give you the opportunity. So folks, that's the first question. So it's the issues that you need to look at, and we'll go straight to the second question in a moment, is regarding the governance and management of association. You have to get it right. You have to look at what it is. As Asma says, the board is the crucial thing, the crucial decision-making body. We don't believe it's the members. The members generally elect the board, and then once the board is elected, then they can make they should delegate that to the CEO. So these are all practical questions we have. So thank you very much for that interaction. Can we move to the second one, please? Thank you. And again, your questions and your comments are welcome at any time if you have any things you wish to add. Okay. So we're just getting the second question up. The second question. Okay. Second question is regarding the constitutions, which are the internal governance rules regarding requiring member approval to go. Some of you call them bylaws, some of you call them the constitutions, some of you call them the rules. We say that regarding the constitutions, which are the internal requiring members, they should include membership fees, board frequency meetings, and services offered to members. The second option is they should be reviewed every 4 years with changes needing membership consultation. And the third one is aren't really important because we don't really follow this document. So there's a few confessions. There's 8% of us confessing that we don't really refer to this document. All right. So there are some options there. Asma, would you like to make some comments upon question 2?
Yeah, I'd like to start with the last option, which, in my humble opinion, shouldn't be even considered as one of the choices. Bylaws are incredibly important within societies, and they should include, again, in my humble opinion, all those you listed, so membership fees, number of board members, types of membership, and so on and so forth. But just a minor point, the second choice, which I cannot see here, but it was saying 4 years or so. I'm not sure if this rigidity should be applied in terms of bylaws, and there should be a window for revision of those bylaws. Perhaps not major ones, but I think there should be some window for change, particularly for newly established associations.
Faris, you're a man in the world of advertising, but can we ask you your comments on the rather less exciting area of bylaws and constitutions, sir?
Yes. Look, you have to look at the association as a purely democratic association, purely democratic organization, and you cannot just throw in, any kind of article or any kind of law that does not help the association grow and achieve its objectives. So it has to start somewhere from down roots. You have to start with the members raise it up to the board puts it in a constitution, they vote on it, and then it goes backward the same way. On many boards that I sat on, it was always on every board meeting, there is one proposal to change a specific law or to change a constitution or amend it or do some tweaks to it. And everybody will have to sit there, work it out, vote on it, accept it. If it is yes, then it's minuted, and then it becomes again as a part of the law for the next board meeting. So it's the same structures of huge public joint stock companies and so on. So yes, there is a chance to keep moving it. Coming back to your point, Asma, it doesn't have to be 4 years or 2 years or 3 years. We need it to change. Economic situation changed, therefore, or membership requirement changed, or levels of the membership changed. So you have to put it in a specific legal form, so to speak. So that's when the flexibility is needed, and you start moving with it. Yeah.
Thank you. Can we go back to question 2 for one more moment, folks, at the back of the room? I do want to mention something about question 2, which is, in my opinion, you should not include membership fees in the bylaws of your organisation, because the members probably aren't going to want to increase them. And we think it should be the board of directors that should make a decision at a board of directors meeting to do that. And there's also things like the services to members. My vote for your interest on this is the middle one, which they should be reviewed every 4 years. That's an example. We sometimes are dealing with associations and they haven't changed their constitution since 1971, which was a great year for the UAE to be founded, but it's not good not to have changed your association constitution since 1971. So the other thing about that is if you're changing it, you need to consult with the members, because you don't want to go and change your bylaws and discover the members, hey, hang on, we don't know anything about this and we don't agree with it. So we believe that member consultation is important. So we'll move on to question 3, but the final thing to say about this is make sure you do not put things in your bylaws that are routine and administrative that you need to bother the membership about. Put the important things in there. Thank you very much, folks. Number 3, if you don't mind. And folks, and remember, as soon as we'd love to see any hands of any comments or questions as we go. Question number 3. When a person from a national association gets elected to the board of a global federation, that person is responsible to the global federation as a whole, or the national association from which they came, or friends and colleagues to whom he or she can do a personal favour. Faris, you are on the board or immediate past president of a global federation. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, okay. You know, just to share with you my little bit of career with associations. I was a member in the UAE board and earlier Bahrain and some other places, some other markets. And, you know, but then you become a board member of, say, Bahrain chapter or UAE chapter. Then suddenly you are elected to become a part of the global board. Where is the, call it, loyalty gonna go? Gonna go here or there? Of course, you will have to keep an eye on what you have done in the UAE. You have to keep an eye on the bigger responsibility that you have landed with, you know, which is a world responsibility. So you cannot split yourself except for the good things, you know. So if this thing works for the world, it might work up to 60% for the rest of the chapters and so on. So in my view, I gave, when I was elected as a chairman of the global segment, global office, it was 100% global office. And sometimes, you know, other little chapters, smaller chapters, bigger chapters were not very happy with me because suddenly I'm not as available, sometimes I'm not as contributing and so on. So, but you had to put a line in the sand and say, okay, my role is I'm the chairman of a global organization, I will have to behave that way. Of course, you will listen to everybody, take comments, take advices, but you will have to play the role and you have to deliver. So my humble point of view, maybe because our association has a totally different structures than others, but if you have many chapters around the world, or a few of them, you will have to set a certain standard, you know, for it. You are from UAE, you cannot just be in the UAE. You cannot favor UAE over Australia, or you cannot favor Australia over the United States. You are one for everybody. It's like the United Nations role, you know, Secretary General. So this is my experience.
Thank you. That's good. We'll put the question back up again, and I'll ask Asma, can you give so many comments? And I'm particularly interested in your feedback on number 3, which you got 3% by. So Asma, your thoughts on responsibilities. Who do responsibilities lie to?
I find this very interesting question, and I will apply that based on our model or experience from the Arab Society in diabetes, because we started Gulf, then we expanded to the MENA region, so we went Arab, and then we had a seat in the Council of the European Society, so we are European, and currently we have a seat in the Executive Board of the Global Pediatric Endocrinology. So starting from here, going there and here and there, and I think at each step of these steps, we do hold responsibility, and as long as it pours into a common interest, which is children diabetes and endocrinology, I don't see an issue of where the responsibility should be. It's a sort of an international consortium that we managed to put ourselves in, so we are held responsible to each of these sub-societies or bigger societies. I'm not sure about using the word loyal because, I mean, it's a part of bylaw again, because when we progressed from being Arab to European, then that's something included in the bylaws. So if I, for example, hold the position of a chair of communication in the European Society, and that's part of the council in this society, there are bylaws that I will abide to. And there are tasks that I am assigned to do and report to whoever is assigned me to this position. So I think, yes, to the whole. I think my answer will be to wherever you reach, rather being national, regional, international, or global, whatever task we are assigned to, we are responsible to.
Yes, that's good. We have a question. Is that, Nina, could we wait till there's a microphone?
Hi, I'm Nina Faris and Pretorius from ICA. I'm a bit confused by this question because our board of directors is asked to sign a code of conduct and how they will behave and what the engagement will be and what the expectation. And at all our board meetings, they have to give disclosure if there's any conflict of interest. So to me, this should not be a question. I would like to agree with the doctor that you obviously wear your regional hat, but then you also wear your international hat, which is ever best for the association that you're serving. So to me, I'm concerned when we see a question like that up, because I think there should be some ethics and professionalism within association. That should be the expected norm, would be my comment.
Yes, thank you. I would agree. I would comment on the first option, which was the majority, and we'll move on to the fourth question quickly. But the first one is really, but sometimes your loyalties, because the word loyalty came up in there, your loyalty might be to your nation, but your responsibility is really to the ultimate national body. You cannot go. The thing not to do is watch the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations Security Council go there, and the nations there represent their countries. They do not do what is good for humanity, but maybe one day. Please,
Can I
Asma.
very quickly?
Yes.
I think it's fantastic that we disagree. That's what makes the discussion far more interesting. But what I think, the way perhaps we misunderstood each other, I think by a society like ours, moving from a regional to an international, I don't quite see the conflict of interest here. Because if you come to the definition of a society, which is a group of people with common interest, and the word common here is the key. So I don't see by any chance, unless we come from different backgrounds in terms of our profession, I don't see it in any way that a society expanding from a local to a more global forum can risk having a conflict of interest.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll move on if we don't mind, if that's okay. Can we go, I think, to the fourth question, please? And thank you, Nina, for the question. Number 4, regarding responsibility for staffing, the chief executive, the paid employee, may employ or dismiss appropriate staff within budget. The second option is members of the association should vote on which candidates to employ for the CEO. And the third is the board should appoint and dismiss, or the board should appoint and dismiss all staff. So, Asma, your thoughts on question 4, please.
Question 4 is a difficult one. From the time we were told, being students in school and how to answer multiple choice question, whenever you find should, every, always, then that's wrong. So I'm just trying to work out where we are here.
Always pick number B, I've always been told.
Okay.
Yeah, this middle one. Yeah.
Okay, may is a softer word. So yeah, the CEO may, but again, I'm a bit struggling with dismiss. Again, going back to, perhaps I wouldn't pick a single answer here, but going back to the bylaws, and our society, for example, we don't have a CEO to start
Aha,
with.
well, this is
so
this
that's
is
why
right.
I'm struggling
Yep.
here.
Yep.
We have an executive board.
Yep.
Perhaps I can move the question to Faris.
Faris, your thoughts, sir?
Your model is different.
Yeah, indeed. I think because of the model, because of the diversity of the model, I will try to answer it from a different way, from a different perspective. We have on boards, I mean, usually in chapters, every chapter has got its own board. Every chapter will have to elect his own president and vice president and so on and so on. And all these guys are going to elect at the very end, they're going to elect the global CEO or whatever. But let's not talk about global because not to make things complicated, I'll go back to a national chapter. And it's not that often. I think in Europe, very often that you will have an employed CEO and so on. Most of us in the region here, we still run volunteers. Yeah. So we are under pressure. So all the time we're under pressure. So we ask each other, do you have enough time to perform the following duty, despite the fact that you are struggling in your business, for example? Can you do this? Can you do that? So this forms a totally different pressure and load on the CEO. Now, if the CEO is an employed one, he is only to answer to the board. Yeah? The board is responsible to answer to the members, and so on and so forth. So it's not an appointment. Nobody has inherited the CEO position. Everybody had worked for it or got employed because of merit, because of whatever. But the point I'm trying to make, CEO cannot be, especially if you have 500 members, you cannot appoint a CEO, hire a CEO. You will have to reduce the voting power based on what kind of power you carry. And these guys will select or appoint the CEO. This is in the case of CEO being paid, not a volunteer. Yeah?
If we could go back to question 4, we'll just recap that this is all one of the significant issues here. It's a recap of the direction that many associations will go in, that they should make profits from their events or from their membership fees. Enough should be retained so that they're in a situation, most of the association professionals in the room would say it's good to aspire to have an association that it can afford to appoint a chief executive who is there at the discretion of the board. Maybe that's too weak a word, but they are contracted to actually run the association. And if that happens, the board of directors can take a step back. Now, if that's the situation, I would vote for the first question, the one with the 65% majority, that person should be able to employ the people they want to get things done in their own way. The membership of the association, they have no responsibility. The membership really get together once a year at the annual general meeting or general assembly, and they elect the board, and then the board, but we don't believe that the smallest vote there is number 3. So this question has been written, and we'll go to number 5 if you don't mind. Dina, but this is all part of the evolution of your association to actually being able to have paid staff who can then run it. So question 5, regarding strategic plans for an association, they are necessary and should be updated every year by the board and the CEO. Not necessary as associations are simple, open, and everyone knows what is happening. And 3, nice in theory, but they cost money and the board of directors have busy day jobs. Okay, well, we got an overwhelming vote for the first one there, and the votes have gone up. A total of 99%, I can add that one up. Any experiences, even Faris, on your time on planning for the International Advertising Federation?
Yes, I mean, you can never tell, as a CEO or president at that time, you can never tell how much it sucks out of your personal time, out of your professional time. So you end up, sometimes because you have lacking, human resource or something, you end up, sometimes writing the marketing plan, what strategy, run it by this one, beg one agency, ask another professional to help you, and so on. Even members, from the organization itself. So it is important to look association. Going back to the question, John, it's a year, a half year, or 3/4 of a year. It's not necessarily the time limit of it. at the start of my what do you call it, chairmanship, I said the board agreed to my overall plan. I spinned it off, and it's still running now since the past 6 years. Yeah, there are tweaks to it. New president came. He said, no, we have to improve here. We have to put more emphasis on creativity rather than that one, which is acceptable. Because we live in an ever-changing world, environment. So yes. It has to be reviewed like any other company. What's the strategic objective for this year, next year, and so on. Then, okay, long-term plan. Where do I want to reach in another 5 years, and what are the steps that I need to take in order to get there? So I did certain steps that I had to do because I had a totally different objective for the future. And if you ask me now, do you want to do it again? I said, no, today, no, I wouldn't do it again, as an objective. But at that time, at that situation. Yes.
So it worked well. Asma, your thoughts on planning?
Yeah. I've got strong ones on this one. I think strategic planning is a key to any society's progress. In the more particularly for the SP, or the European Society, where I serve as a chair of communication, we have 7 committees, and one of them is purely devoted to strategic planning. Okay. So that goes very well with the 99% vote, because, I mean, for a progress of a society, strategic planning is absolutely important. So I'm not surprised of the answer.
We'll flick back to that, and I'll make a couple of other comments about strategic planning before we move into it. Hands up if your association has a day or half a day every year for strategic planning.
Oh, more than that.
Okay, wow. Minimum, thank you. That's very, very good vote. Now, the quick point about that, we would like to say that we want to mention, the panel would like to mention that it's associations may be simple, open, but not everyone will know what everyone is doing. You really have to document it. You really have to have it in a written document, otherwise everyone's memories and differences of opinions will change. And the second thing is that whilst they are nice in theory, any money that they cost is money that you do need to invest in. If you need to get an external facilitator, that is a part of doing business. And boards of directors have busy day jobs. Yes, you can see here from Faris and Asma, they have busy day jobs, but they still manage time for that. So we're great advocates, as you can see, as are 95% of the people for strategic planning. So question 6 out of 8. The next one, please. Thank you. Associations should seek to make a reasonable profit in most years and accumulate equity. The second option is never make a profit because they are membership bodies with mutual ownership. And the third is they should distribute profits to membership as dividends in a financially good year. So this is all to do, there's an unfortunate term that you sometimes hear in our world, which is not for profit. We don't like that. We think that the associations are not for loss and they are not for dividend. But Asma, would you like to make any comments on the accumulation of wealth within an association?
Very, very interesting. Yeah, this is a voluntary work for association is never going to make anybody a millionaire. But yeah, we use the term for non-profit organizations, and yeah, most of us are. But the sad fact is we need money to progress. So although not necessarily that is a main motive for gathering or forming a society, money has to come from somewhere. And in most of the societies, definitely medical ones, we rely heavily on annual conferences, donations, particularly from partners like pharmaceutical industries, reputable ones. I think there should be a source of I don't know whether I should call it profit, but a revenue of some sort or another made available for the society to progress. Now, the source of that revenue, we might agree and disagree about it. It might be different for different societies, but money should be there from somewhere.
Hear, hear.
Whatever.
Hear, hear. Thank you.
Agree fully. Otherwise, associations cannot develop. And here, I would raise maybe 2 points a little bit later. I don't know if we've got enough time, John.
Yes.
One of them is that to move forward, you need the money. To move forward, you need resources and so on. So this is one. Governments look at associations as somebody who's going to develop the industry that they are sitting in, within. And we are supposed to obviously accept regulations, etc. For me, at some point, I was fighting almost every country that I went to check with the chapters and meet the ministers or the presidents, whatever. I was always asking one question. If you want us to operate, you have to support. Yeah? And you cannot just support us, by giving us a nice Christmas card. It has to be actual. Give us a space, give us a car, pay for our CEO here, etc. And the minute you say to any government, please pay, budget here, no budget there. Of course, because for whatever reason. So to me, the future growth of associations will have also to be a part of the government's responsibility, not only the members and not only the volunteers. So we have to advance it. And the way we are going right now, we're doing fantastic as associations around the world, but to start playing significant roles in our pivotal industries, we need more help. I'm not talking about distributing dividends at the end of the year. I'm not talking about profits. Okay, you have left money in the pot at the end of the year. Take it and make an event, a global congress, I don't know what, and then carry on. But we will need the government support at some point.
If we could go back to the question, please. We will make a couple of other comments on this. That 76%, so not as large a majority, went for the first option here, is to make a reasonable profit in most years and accumulate equity. Now, I want to make a little comment that this means it's quite okay to be in an association and to say, hey, we're going to budget to make a loss in the next financial year because there's something major we need to invest in or spend our money on. So that means that most associations make a reasonable profit in most years. Now, the other comment about this question is it doesn't say obscene profit. We suggest that you don't really want to make an obscene or ludicrous profit. We're not Apple computers. We are quite happy to make a reasonable profit and accumulate equity. Now, we do need to be able to build up those funds. There is nothing better than an association that is able to say that they have $1 million equivalent in the bank account. It means that they are going to survive for a few years, even if they make a few mistakes as they go on. You must make a profit, and you must forget this term, not-for-profit. It's a bad term. We're stuck with it, but you really are. We're organisations like everyone else, but we do not have dividends. And which comes to the last question. If we make a good profit, unfortunately, you can't close the association down and split the money between the board of directors or split the money between the membership. That's not how it works. That's called a company with owners. So you cannot get your hands on that money. That is all for the future cause, very much. So,
John,
please, Faris, yes.
I would like to add, thank you, John, very point, right on the head, It's not only we need to make profits, we only need to have reserves, because we are so susceptible to any economic situation as association. Any economic downturn that takes place, one economic alliance comes out from ASEAN, from EU, from I don't know what, then the whole, all our business comes down. And there is nobody to protect us, as I mentioned just now. I said government doesn't protect us or help us. So make a reserve. Try to put a reserve on the side for the bad days, for the black days. And nothing wrong if you make money and keep it. I mean, you're not distributing, so you don't pay taxes on it. So I don't want to say be greedy, but be careful. Make revenues. So.
That's great. Now, the other thing about this is all of you have been to general assemblies or annual general meetings of your members where the members complain, hey, you're charging too much for the conference free, or you're charging too much for conference registration. Just remember that every other association in the world has those same questions being asked to you at every other general meeting of members. That's what members do. They complain that they're being charged too much money. Put up with it and be very proud of the fact that the financial stability of your organisation is something for them to be proud of, and make a big thing about the fact that you're financially strong. That does change the mindset. Can we have question number 7, please? And again, questions and comments from the audience are welcome at any time. Question number 7, regarding potential members, as a general rule you pick the first answer, I think is the answer to this. As a general rule,
the job is done for us here.
Associations need to have good benefits for joining. Number 2, potential members will always willingly join an association. Number 3, people only join an association when the fees are very low. Asma, would you like to kick off?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you mean by good benefits. To me, as passionate as I am about my profession and specifically about my subspecialty, I will be always willing to join an association. But again, coming back to the human factor and the human willing, and there should be incentives, not necessarily materialistic, but people should define what good benefit is. Is it career progression? Is it more knowledge? Is it enhancement of education? Is it promotion of own subspecialty? Or is it just fulfilling fantasies and passion? So the straight answer to that is definitely the top one. But again, if we have more passionate people, we could get some even in the middle one.
We love you. We need more members like Asma who are willing to do it. But I would comment that doctors believe in education, they believe in knowledge, and that's because it's very much part of the core of what medical practitioners do. But Faris, sir.
Okay, again, I answer from my own experience. We have done so many researches in the past among the members, our corporate members, about normal members, professional members, etc. And we found out that the basic rules of marketing still exist anywhere.
Here.
Everywhere.
Yep.
So this is a brand name worthy of joining. My name is gonna look good if I put my name next to this logo. That starts there. And then the second most powerful one is what benefits am I getting versus what I'm giving. Yeah? And this is the truth of things. You cannot just this is $100, for my membership, and I expect 1, 2, 3, and excuse me, there are checks and balances. Besides the time that you are donating to the association, I want you to give even money, and I give I don't know what, and talent, and I don't know what. So it is important for us. You have to continue building your brand names, in every association. Use a marketing model that works well for you, so you can later on, even if you want to sell it, you can get some money for it. So basic rules of retailing, basic rules of marketing continue to exist. Use it, but within an association format. That's what I only say.
That's brilliant. We could bottle that comment as well. And a comment I'd make about that is marketing. Faris, is marketing different to sales?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so what scope? This is an extra question to you. What scope should associations have salespeople ever? Is there a possibility, or should they just market and expect people are going to join?
We are 100% into it. We're 100% into it. We have to go out and market ourselves. We cannot afford to throw a advertising campaign, for us. We don't have money to start with.
Yep.
So we need somebody to go to the proper forums, to the proper professional teams or whatever, and say, look, I want you to join this association. It's going to cost you $10,000, but you get the following benefits. Otherwise, nobody's going to hear about you. And of course, now we count a lot on the digital world, but the digital world in many cases has failed us, in the sense of promoting, because the problem of the content, the problem of distribution, you need another 3 people working for the digital or for the website and so on. So I'm not the classical person at all, but I still see sometimes you cannot conclude a deal with a major corporation if you think that you're going to send them an email explaining the benefits and the scope of your association. You have to go there, knock at the door, wait, see the CEO, tell him I want $100,000. Against this, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, and you're going to help the industry, your industry, our industry. So it's we have to be proactive out on the market.
Yep.
You cannot sit anymore.
You can't assume, this, the message one of the messages to everyone today is you cannot forget the fact that at the end of marketing, sometimes you've got to get on the telephone and ask people to join. Sometimes you've got to say, would you like to come to the conference? Sometimes you've got to send a personal email. So marketing is the image as well, and don't forget you've got to sell. If you're fortunate, your association will have practitioners who believe in the cause and want to be involved, and it's a natural part of their job to be part of the association. Unfortunately, that is a minority of our world. And the other comment from the question is the good benefits. You've got to decide what the right benefits are. Most people say, what's in it for me? That's the question you've got to ask yourselves. You can't assume that what was developed in the past is still relevant. Things are changing so much all the time, and we've heard that from previous speakers today as well. So we very strongly believe that you can't take, alas, you cannot take things for granted. So I think maybe the final question, but at least the next question, it might be number 8. And there's going to be a chance for a couple of questions from people. Okay. The constitution, the ideal board size and chair election conditions are. Now, this is a little bit complicated, but we'll look forward to reading it. So the ideal size is 6 to 8 directors. Oh, I think that maybe this goes up to the top, and that's why you're all getting the top answer, because I think they probably go up to the top, but that's just my guess. So the most popular answer was number 1, which is 6 to 8 directors, a chair elected by the board, chair with a term limit of 3 years. The second is to have 3 to 5 directors on the board, the chair elected by the board and the chair with no term limit. And the third option is 11 directors or more, chair elected by the board and the chair with term limit. Now, I'm going to talk about this for a moment and just break this down. The board size, the first part of these 3 options is the size of the board. In the research that Associations Forum has done in our market is that the ideal board size is 8 people on the board. Now, when we say the board, these are the people who are legally responsible for the association, and these are the people who will go to jail if there is a serious problem. The people who really say, yes, well, we are ultimately responsible for it, but don't panic too much, that is very unlikely to happen. So that is the number on it. So let's just look at the left-hand side of this. So 6 to 10 is seen by us and by the majority of people here. Well, there's different components of this there. The third, 3 to 5. Now, a comment that we would make is if you have 5 members on a board of directors, the ultimate decision-making power, not the chief executive, someone is going to be away, someone is going to be new, someone is going to be shy, and that means that there are going to be 2 people who make all the decisions for the whole association. So we aren't great fans of as low a number of 5 and 11 plus. The largest board that I know of in Australia is a board of 40 people, and that's the Law Society of one of our states, and they like the fact that they can get together, and they're lawyers, and we love lawyers, lots of lawyers in the room here, but they like the fact that they can get together and chat and discuss things, but it's not very functional. No one really wants to have 40 people making decisions on things because things can easily slip through. So my first comment, and I'm going to stop now, go to my panellists and say, simply board size, Asma and then Faris.
I think I do have a problem with this question as well, because I think it's directly related to the type of society and what model you are running inside your society. Us, as an example, We have an executive board in which there's only the Secretary General, President, Vice President, and the Treasurer. But our main board consists of a representative from each one of the Arabic country. Our name is ASPET, Arab Society of Pediatric Endocrinology. And we have people right from Morocco, going to Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Sudan, and then all the Gulf countries, as well as Iraq, Palestine, Jordan, and Lebanon. And the main way that we expand is to get all these seeds from different countries joined to us. How can we do that? We need a representative from each of these countries. So it can no way be 3 or 5, even though we are around 500 members. So relatively, we're not huge. But again, the function of the society necessitates presence of bigger board for the reasons that I have just mentioned. The other part of the question is related to the term.
Can we put that on hold for the moment, just that one, if you don't mind? Faris, quickly on board size, and we'll come back to term as well.
For all my sins, the past, I ended up with a global board of 72 people.
72.
Coming from everywhere in the world. But
Can anyone beat 72 on a board? Okay, a few people.
But we have to be practical as well. So we say, okay, from the board of the 72, there has to be an executive committee, very solid executive committee representing most of the 72. So the executive committee ended up with a 16, 17 most of the time. And this is the guys who will show up every time we have an executive board meeting. The board will show up once a year. Executive board will have to show up maybe like 3 times a year. And on top of the 17, 18, in order not to keep them coming and going with every little big things and small things, so we said, all right, out of the 17, we want just 4. The CEO, managing director, treasurer, and secretary to be present for emergencies. So these guys are willing to go anytime, anywhere, fly, sort out issues, come back, report to the executive committee, or reports to the board. It's a laborious job, no doubt. But it has to happen. If you want to run an association across the world, you will have to consider the world as a part of your organization. So it's one big thing you've got. And there's no other, and you cannot diminish, or you cannot push this one aside. We're not interested in the issues of Indonesia, but we're interested in the issues of South Africa. It doesn't work, so you have to attend to everything, and you will have to have a representative from everywhere. Like Asma suggested. Yeah.
One of the issues about this, and I just want to come back to this a moment again, is you need to know the legal structure in which you are incorporated. You need to say to those people on the board, do you know that you are legally responsible for this organisation, and there may be personal liability coming to you for it. It's not just a group of people getting together for a social function. There are legal responsibilities to be. So you need to make sure that all of the people who call themselves on the board, and there's lots of definitions of where a board starts or finishes, but it should be clear that the people on the board are legally responsible. So the second question, if we could go back to question 8 again. And this was the complicated question. The second one is, now question number 8, we'll get there. It was to do with the chair. I think it was a question for question number 8. The middle bit was, who elects the board? It's not the term limit, we'll come to that in a moment. It's who elects the chairman of the board. Do all of the members elect the chairman of the board, or does the board, let's say there's 100 members of an organisation, do they elect the chairman of the board, or do 8 people, let's say there's 8, or let's say there's 10 people on the board, do the 10 elect their own chair? Faris, your comment on who should elect the chair of the board?
Obviously the board of directors, no one else. Because
say again.
It's the board of directors, no one else.
Okay.
And I mean, the reasons are very simple, because if the chairman is responsible for the board and ultimately for the members and everyone else, then somebody has to cascade the responsibility throughout and cascade action, throughout the organization. It is a laborious affair to ask the members to elect a chairman, because in some cases in your associations, the United States and Europe and so on, some associations of 8,000 people, where did they meet the chairman? How did they come to see the chairman capabilities or competencies and so on? So they have to delegate somebody on their behalf, elect a board member, and the board member, of course, trustingly is going to be, on their behalf as well, going to be electing the chairman. Maybe smaller organizations, it can be a member to chairman. It can be, it could happen. But I think I would not call him a chairman at that time. I would call him, maybe a president or something.
Understand. That's good. Thank you. Now, Asma, can I get you to answer two things? Can you comment upon whether the chair should be elected by the board of, say, 10 or in your case 17, or whether it should be the whole membership? In your case, a number of hundreds of doctors across the Middle East. And the second part of it is, should there be a limit on that term, or should the chairman be allowed to stay on and on for a long time? So over to you for your thoughts.
Again, we might have different terminology here. We don't have chairs in our society, and as far as I know,
President, probably.
President, Secretary General, Vice President, all these names. But regardless
Yes.
of what this person terminology is, the straight answer to election is by people, members who hold the right to vote. So being the president, the vice president, the process that I'm aware in our society as well as many other medical societies is all these positions being at the executive board or the board of directors are positions that are to be applied for and members have the right to vote for. That's from my experience. Term is another difficult one. Again, it depends on the position. Some are fixed terms, renewable. Some are not renewable. Some positions are for as short as 1 year. Others are for 3 years. And it varies within the constitution itself. So the term of the president might be different from the term of the secretary general. So there's nothing fixed. But to prevent all this to go chaotic, things are written clearly in bylaws, and possibly this is where too liberal democracy will push things into chaos. So there are things that should be there and possibly not as flexible, and there are others that can be changed, but it's so variable.
Thank you. The last question that I'll just make a quick comment and then the closing comments for my panellists, our panellists. Your constitution, we believe your constitution should always have the issue of how many on the board. It should not be a vague number. It should be a clear number. The constitution should make it very clearly who elects the chairman of the board, who is the person who chairs the meeting, sometimes called chairperson, some kind called president. And the third thing is your constitution should see whether that person can stay on for 20 years as the chair of the board or the president, or whether they have to go. And I think I go for the term limit. I don't think we need too many Robert Mugabes who stay on and on and on as president, so that's fine. Now, folks, thank you very much for your interest. I'm going to ask our panellists to make a closing comment. Faris to the audience and then to Asma.
Associations or the business of association have been always on my mind for a very long time, maybe because of the length of involvement. But you have to trust in the fact that you have to treat it as a live enterprise. You will have to feed it, you will have to develop it, you have to look at it as it's a business, it's as that requires marketing plans, that requires all sorts of business development objectives, etc. So it is, in my point of view, I can see the business and the involvement of associations in this world will grow with governments, will grow within its own industry. So there's only one way, which is going up. And to continue going up, you will have to continue, as one, I think, Jeff, I think, said, you have to continue to have relevance to your members. And if there is no relevance, you can just ignore it. You can have an event and make money and everything, but in the next event, nobody's going to come. So you have to make it like a living thing, and it's going to carry on with you. So relevance, challenge, meet the challenges of the future, not today, and what's going to be coming up. And I trust in the job and the role of the associations. That's it. That's why I'm still here.
Thank you very much. Asma, your thoughts to the audience. Thank you. Closing comments.
Societies are great things. They need a lot of passion. Most of the work is voluntary, but if one believes in what she or he does, then that's a key for success. I would like to take the opportunity, being a Dubai Association Center ambassador, to encourage people to strengthen these relationships, because possibly we got registered in 2014, and perhaps we could have progressed without being registered. But having a license and having an association with a reputable center like DAC gives us the أريحية بالعربي, or being in a comfort zone to do more, to progress more, to talk more at an official platform. It has been a great journey, and it's the start. I'm sure things can progress and be bigger and better. Thank you.
Folks, thank you very much for joining us today. I'd like to ask you to join me in thanking our wonderful panellists today.
Thank you.
Asma and Faris.